Their business acumen is staggering. Their wealth is subject of envy. But behind the money, the notoriety, and the often unwanted attention is a sense of purpose, to help those in need, to build a legacy to be proud of. This is a series that delves into the lives of those who give. This is The Philanthropists. Hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Benwergy. Welcome to The Philanthropists, an ongoing series where we look at giving and the people who do it. Today, we're going to talk to Pnina and Marcel Pinchevsky about why they give to Canadian Friends of Hebrew University. Hi, welcome.
Welcome. Hi.
I want to start with you, Pnina.
Yes.
You actually went to Hebrew U. Tell me about that. What did you study when you went to Hebrew University?
Well, I went to the Hebrew University after my military service in 1972 to 1975. My dream when growing up was to be a psychologist, but I was an army officer at the Israeli army, and then my interest in social issues, people, I decided to go to the School of Social Work. And the application was not easy. It was considered quite a high status to be a social work student, not the same being a social worker, but we can talk about this later. So I studied social work for 3 years at the Hebrew University, loved it, had an amazing experience. And later on, when I came to Canada, I did Master of Social Work at the University of McGill.
And your daughter has gone to Hebrew University too, right?
Yes. Yes, after 1 year of college in Montreal, I encouraged her to go and study at the Hebrew University. It is a program in English, 1 year program, which considered first year of university. She was a bit nervous. She was 19 years old. It's the first time that she left home. I told her, we are not taking you to Israel. We take you to Toronto, and you're flying with all the children that going to the Hebrew U. She stayed there for a year. And she loved it. She lived in the same residence where I lived, 50 years, but not 50 years, but quite a few years earlier. And then after the first year, now she was a very independent, confident young woman. We would prefer if she come back to Montreal and studied at McGill, but she chose to go to Dalhousie University.
Right. So, Marcel, for you, where's Hebrew University in your life early on?
I thought there were supposed to be easy questions, but the Hebrew University is an evolution of getting married to a graduate of Hebrew University. Because as we tended to go back to Israel almost every year, this was one of the pilgrimages that we had to do. Let's go back to Hebrew University. And it was... it's an amazing place because it's built on the mountain and you're walking in history, or it seems like to me, because I walk in there and there's Einstein on this wall and there's Buber on that wall, and I'm looking at this and say, it's totally unlike everything or anything I'd ever seen before. And I'm saying, gee, it would be so cool to be here. But then it was too late for me, so that's why we encouraged our daughter, go and do it. And in fact, she was so encouraged by it that was, I believe, the first intifada. And a lot of the parents took their children and said, get out of Jerusalem. And, well, intifada was on the other side of the street. Literally, the dorm was maybe 100 yards away where there's some troubles. And she said, no, I'm staying here. So my links to Hebrew University are really through the women in my family, because they both went to Hebrew University. So that's how I ended up.
Yeah. So
And the third woman was Monet Malevsky, who turned to me, we go back a long way, and said, and what about your involvement with Hebrew University? This was many, many years ahead, and we'll get to that story also, but I said, gee, the women are influencing my life, aren't they?
So she asked you about your involvement?
No, she said, so how much are you going to give this year? Which is a very direct and serious question. And I said, that's an easy one because I was already there. I was in terms of looking for a cause that I could believe in. Obviously, with Pnina having gone there and our daughter Sarah having gone there, I said, yeah, I can support that. And then when they came back, I think a year or two later, said, and how can we do better than that? And that was also an easy one. In fact, all of our involvement with Hebrew University has been a pleasure. I'm kind of restrained when someone says, can you open up your wallet and help us out? I tend to sort of back away and not do that, but for reasons that we can talk about, I've changed my attitude also about that in a different, because I'm coming from a different space and looking at things in a different way.
So when it comes to Hebrew University for you, when you go back to Israel, you don't have to go to Hebrew U. You could have done anything. Why did you keep going back? What does it mean to you?
You mean in terms of our donation and?
Well, in terms of your connection from your heart to it.
I think it started earlier. It's my connection to education and my love of education, which came from my mother. My mother ended her formal education at age 13 before going to concentration camp, then went to Israel and never really stopped in a way studying, primarily languages. At one point, the two of us even took Esperanto lessons together years ago. Then, when I came to Canada, I went to McGill. I had a baby, and I was supposed to go back to my previous job. At that time, this was before we had 1 year maternity leave. I had a 3-month-old baby, and the organization said, if you want us to keep your job, you have to go back to work. I did not know what to do. I called my mother, and I said, Ima, what shall I do? I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'll ever be ready. And my mother told me, you have to go back to work. You invested so much in your education, and now you have to use it. And now you have, in a way, to apply it to other people and continue growing as a professional.
So when you decided that you were going to engage with Hebrew University, I guess you have to start making decisions about what kind of programs you want to support.
Okay. Exactly.
So how did you come to the decisions as to what to support at Hebrew U? Because there's a lot that you could choose from.
So the support really came as directed by the Canadian Friends of Hebrew University, because at that time there was an important initiative with the Imric Research Center, and we jumped on the bandwagon because of the scientific research, and was supported by Canada, and was a major Canadian initiative, and here we are. But what really modified that, so the connection to Hebrew University was always there, but what modified our focus was not just the Canadian part, but we were introduced to someone, the director of the School of Social Work, Wanahuri, and Pnina will tell you much more about her because the connection there is really strong. But she focused on the School of Social Work, and I said, wow. And at this point, I can turn it over to Pnina, who'll tell you a lot more, much more interesting stuff.
Tell me more.
Well, to me, social work is really such an important, such a meaningful profession. We deal with health, education, protection, safety, security. We work with individuals, groups, communities, culture, and somehow, my feeling, we never got the respect and recognition that our profession should have. We kind of been seen as an extension of psychology, although it's a different profession. And one way Dr. Mona Khoury said when we met her at Montreal, she said, we need to have very significant body of research in social work. That's the only way that we would get the respect, the recognition that we need. Also because we're working with so many communities, populations, topics, you need a very strong body of research to have impact on effective, meaningful contribution. So it made sense to us that, and of course, my years of training in the School of Social Work, which were very, very important, very rich. There was a good academic training, But at the Hebrew University, as of your first year of social work, you go to the community. Not necessarily as a social worker, but you communicate with people, you observe, you pick up topics, you pick up challenges. Then the second year I worked in a hospital with children. The third year in a mental health clinic. So I have so much respect for the training, and I feel that our contribution will help bring it to a higher level.
Yeah.
And for a better contribution to society.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about social work, and it's in the hierarchy of healthcare.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
often seen as, caseworkers. They just, get a file and check on you at your living room, but they don't think about social determinants of health or any of those other things. So you wanted to make it richer. Right?
Yes.
You wanted to give it its credit. You were saying earlier about the idea of what it's done to your idea of giving, that when somebody would say, would you give, your first initial reaction was, I don't, no. But now you say you look at it differently. How do you look at it differently?
It's an evolutionary process, because giving in itself it's a rather cold term. But what I've found, and this is where I've been grabbed in a positive sense, grabbed in my soul, grabbed in my wallet, is that where I can see the cause, the end result of the money touching other individuals. So if we talk about the School of Social Work, although the research that is done there is not as exciting and as sexy as perhaps the neuro stuff at Imric, but on the other hand, the work that they do directly touches the community. And so the work that the PhD student that we're supporting, and a few of them, we can see the work that they're doing is going to be in the community in a few years, going to help out mothers that are having difficulties, women with breast cancer, whatever other research. We don't choose the research, but we feel that the impact is much more immediate. We can see it hitting the streets, as they say, within a few years, as opposed to waiting generations and decades for this absolutely wonderful research on cancer. But that's not where we're coming from. We're looking for the individual and the benefit to the individual, that where our vision is. So for example, other than Hebrew University, we're supporting a major mental health initiative in Montreal. And I could see the dollars that the two of us give and what it means to the people that are the recipients of that money. And that's where I have evolved, changed. My focus is that, okay, I can't say no because I see the people who are benefiting. It's easier to say no to a concrete building with 400 offices and laboratories, but I can't say no to a person.
Right. And you're talking about mental health, which a lot of people still can't make the connection that mental health is health. It's not a broken arm, but it could be a broken person, and you need to help them. So for you, did you ever imagine as a kid going to Hebrew University that one day you'd be sitting here talking about giving to Hebrew University?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is not in my wildest dream. Yeah, not in my wildest dream.
And what has it done for you to reconnect in this way, where you have a concrete ability to help people helping people?
We were very lucky to meet some of the students that we support, where we give the scholarships. Now, as Marcel said, we don't choose the students. We don't choose the topic of research. That's the role of the university, the School of Social Work. They know what the needs are. But just talking about the topics connect to my experience as a person, my experience as a social worker, as a therapist. For example, one student is doing research of resilience after breast cancer, which resilience is, as a social worker, it's a strength-based profession. We encourage resilience, we study resilience. The other student studied the impact of working with end-of-life issues on healthcare providers, which is very important to me because I work with professionals in the area of what we call vicarious trauma. how are working with clients, dealing with trauma, violence, grieving, how it's affecting us as people, how we process it. And it's a topic that I thought about. I worked with social workers. I was a guest lecturer at McGill Social Work. So somehow the connection with the needs of research of the university are somehow close to my heart and to my values and what interests me.
So what would you say to people who are considering the idea of philanthropy, the idea of supporting something?
I would start, may I quote someone a quote that I love. It's from Rabbi Hillel. May I say it first in Hebrew, it's easier.
Of course.
אם אין אני לי, מי לי? וכשאני לעצמי, מה אני? ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי? If I'm only for myself, who is for me? No, sorry. If I'm not for myself, who is for me? And if I'm only for myself, what am I? What am I, not who am I? And if not now, when? So I'm a secular Jew, but we all learn it as part of the values that instilled in us, part of our upbringing in Israel.
Right.
Yeah,
and for you, what would you say about the idea of giving and what it could do for someone?
I'm glad you used the word giving, and I know the subject of our topic is philanthropy, but giving should have been placed higher up on the list of nouns and adverbs to discuss, because the giving is something that we as human beings, as Jews, should focus on if we have an opportunity to help our fellow man. And the word I've always focused on has always been tzedakah, where the giving is not just money, it's giving of yourself, of your time, and even of goods. So if you have an extra loaf of bread, share it. And that is a really important part of what makes us who we are. And when I speak to somebody about the thousands of wonderful causes out there, and we are just one more of those wonderful causes, I think back to one of the interviews I've heard that you gave, and someone said, but if you're speaking from your heart and you really have a passion for what you're talking about, you're not asking for money. You're just asking for them to share in your passion, in your emotion. And that's where I think it makes a difference.
May I add, for me, philanthropy starts with curiosity, because you have to be curious about the world. You have to be curious about other people. Then it's about caring and compassion. So I think we're talking about values. And we're talking about our responsibility to transmit values to our children. I loved, actually, that's what Gail Asper talked to you about. And I loved what she said. Because I think that's also the future of philanthropy. It's really, what do we choose? How do we choose to raise our children? And what kind of values and exposure we're offering to them. One example, I took my children, they were very young. There was a special event with special needs clients when I was a social worker. And they would talk about this even now. Just seeing other people that having bigger challenges, celebrating, interacting. So I think these kind of experiences that are very important to us, and we want to pass to other people, definitely to our children.
Well, thank you. This has been really, I can feel it. I can feel that how much you care, and that what you said about it's tangible. The kind of help and giving that you're involved with has results on the street. People can benefit from them, and it's one of the reasons you do this, but there's so many good reasons you do it, so it's really a pleasure. Thank you, Pnina and Marcel Pinchevsky. Thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you for watching. I'm Ralph Ben-Murgy. If you want to see more episodes of The Philanthropists, go to Canadian Friends of Hebrew University on YouTube. Take care of each other. See you soon. Bye.